All right, welcome back, everybody. And David, we're going to continue on talking about some practice-related stuff, and this time, let's talk about multiple offers. So we're actually going to talk about the buyer, and maybe the buyer has multiple offers as well, but we're going to kick it off because it's the most popular scenario. You're a seller or you're a buyer bringing an offer, and you understand, or you find out another offer is coming in, or you're representing the seller, and the thing that everyone loves to get, because it is great when you have more than one offer on the table. So let's talk about the seller's perspective first. You're representing the seller, and how do you approach the sellers at first? You hear of another offer coming in or whatever you do. How do you bring up the conversation?
So I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to access the prior learning because, of course, I'm going to go right to Ninja and talk about all the way back at our initial listing consultation when we talked about processes. One of the things we should be talking about is what are multiple offers, how are they worked, so we can access that prior learning later on.
So you're talking them before, when you're listing the property.
It's a way to set up. It helps you look way more professional in your listing anytime you're talking about things. And I can access that prior learning. Because again, then I'm not being a salesperson. I'm being a professional who's saying, remember when we spoke about, this is what we discussed, here was the approach. And we move forward right away and say, it looks like we're going to be in that situation. So I need to review our discussion with you, explain how the rule works, and receive your instructions, which is incredibly important. Because when we look at the presentation of multiple offers, the rule really hasn't changed from a long time ago, except a bunch of little words right at the end that says, it applies unless otherwise instructed by the seller, which gives us a lot of wiggle room for how we want to negotiate the offer and work through it depending on the client's comfort level, the way you want to approach it. So you will get many realtors who will say, no, you can't do that. And that's why step one, before we talk to our seller again, is talk to a manager, review processes, make sure you've got it clear in your mind how you're going to do it. We're dealing with these, I think in the last month, I've probably dealt with 6 or 7. I dealt with 2 this weekend. Where I was educating realtors on the processes as we worked through. I just got a text this morning from the last one that I was dealing with at 9 o'clock last night. This is what's going on. I've answered it. So we're there, right in there to guide you through it. We go through these many times during a year. Realtors might only go through maybe 10 or 12 in their whole career.
Right.
So lean on the resources that are available to you.
Cool. Okay, so an offer, multiple offers are coming in. What do you tell the realtors?
Okay, so I'm going to have had my discussion with my client, and I'm going to know how we're going to proceed. So the initial rule
let's just pause for 1 second. Sorry to take it back. So what exactly would you say to your client about the multiple offers?
Okay, so we're entering into a multiple offer situation. There's a variety of ways we can deal with it. And I'll actually explain the rule to them again, which is we're required to notify each realtor who submits in writing only, and it has to have been communicated to us. That's when we truly enter into multiples, not I'm going to get one.
I got an offer coming, and then it never comes. And
exactly, which does happen. So we talked to the seller about that. We've received our 2. We should set up a time with them to sit down and review them in the future. Allow me review to them the communication instructions they want me to give to the other realtors. So the rule does read, we have to tell them, each realtor, who the other realtors are, the brokerages they're with, and that we will be meeting, presenting. The client is supposed to make a choice of one offer to work with, and we notify any of the other realtors involved. Thank you very much. We appreciate your offer. Nice. We're going to be, and it's important to say something like, we're going to be working with a different offer. Now you can say to them, if you wish to make any changes to your offer,
absolutely,
before we get this other one negotiated and accepted, this is the fancy way of saying, get your dollars up, do whatever you need so you can keep your client in the game. But let me know you're going to do that. We will keep moving forward with the other offer, but you must submit it in writing. I will not accept verbal changes. So once it's in writing, ready to be just your client initials and signs to accept, that's how you want that updated offer to come in. All the offers should come in that way. There are no verbals with competitives. We want everything in writing, go back old school,
Yeah.
everything in writing and communicated to the seller for their review.
And I love that because you have to remember that you're working in your seller's best interest. It is your duty now to work in your seller's best interest and notifying somebody that, Ray, here at the moment, we're working with another offer. If you want to come back with a better offer, that will be presented to your client, which before it's been accepted, you're actually always required to present all offers to your client, unless you have one accepted and that goes away, but you should still present it. But bottom line, everything you're saying is you follow the process unless otherwise instructed by your sellers.
So sellers can provide us to work differently with the rule. They can tell us, I don't want anyone to know that we're in competitives. I want to negotiate with all three offers at the same time. So here you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
You're going to be communicating verbally to them, or even if you do make changes to the contract, never sign Section 18 for acceptance. Because if you send out 3 signed that way, you could sell the house 3 times, and then Steve will explode.
Yes, exactly.
And we're going to say it was really nice having you work as a realtor at CIR. Good luck in your further career. So you're going to talk to us and make sure that you're protected. When you get your very first offer, you're obviously going to tell your client you got an offer. You're going to start negotiating it. Then the other offer shows up. What do? You have to stop, talk to your seller about it, do the notification. You're going to reach back out probably to offer 1 and say, we've received another offer. We're now in multiples. So we're going to slow it down. We're going to present everything at this time. If you wish to make any changes to your initial offer, when there was no competitives, please do, but submit it in writing. And it has been my experience that, and we're going to probably jump ahead in questions, to get most money.
I'm tracking it. We're good.
To get the most money, I like everybody to know that there's a fight going on. If the house is that popular, you shouldn't be concerned about possibly scaring away a buyer, and knowing they're in competitives, they're going to do that. Now, jump quickly to the buyer's side. What do we tell our buyer every time we're in multiples? Right, for the highest amount you're willing to spend for the property.
Yeah.
Why? Because if you lose it and the other person paid $5,000 more, you're not upset. But if you write it at $395 and you see it sold at $397 and you went, well, I would have went to $400.
Yeah.
They will be 6 months before you land them on another house. They need to be able to make that emotional break from the one they wanted and move forward with something else.
Yeah.
Interesting, bringing in rolling top 3s and other stuff from Ninja, which we won't get into.
Yeah, there really is an art to this, and it's a little bit of a game of poker sometimes. Trying to pull this in, and even calling other realtors bluffs. But we know a lot of the time, as a realtor, hitting my mic, but as a realtor representing a seller, when I get an offer in, I'm calling every single person that shows some interest there. I'm trying to get another offer in. So when you're that realtor who, especially when a property's been sitting on the market for 80 days, you finally write an offer, and now you're like, and of course now another offer comes in, and now we're in multiples. Sometimes you think there's some nefarious things going on in the background. You think, oh, this person is gaming me, is not trustworthy and things. And you can ask for the name of the brokerage and stuff like that. But also remember that if there's a bunch of people that had second showings, I'm on the phone to them right away.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, you want to draw out a second offer.
Absolutely. Because sometimes someone comes in a low ball for the first offer, and then I go and say, hey, we got an offer on the table. These other people come in with the higher offer, and now the low ball offer actually was just testing the water, and they come back in a full list or higher. And you're like, okay, even though the second offer might not have been that high, you can really use them to your advantage. So, but again, everything's market dependent on your client's individual situation. The most important thing, talk to them, review their options, follow their lawful instructions.
And stay in touch with your manager as the game changes through the scenario. The one I worked last night, I talked to the realtor about 5 times because the original offer, when they sent it in, it was a very hot property, 1 day on the market. 2 hours after it was shown, they had their first offer. They had 2 more within a couple more. And the very first offer when it came in was full list, decent conditions, nothing unconditional, full list, unconditional, dream offer. But then they got the other ones coming in and knew they were coming. That first realtor said when they sent it in, by the way, we won't compete.
Yeah.
That was a lie.
Yes.
They are not writing a full price unconditional offer because they're not willing to compete.
Yes.
But that buyer was doing the best they could for their client. So we looked at it. The seller was very nervous, and I said, it's up to them. Explain the pros and cons. And laid out different scenarios. Yeah. They ended up making them enter into the compete. The offer went for very strongly in favor of the seller. I won't discuss details or who it was, because but it ended up going unconditional. And the other realtor, first one threatening RECA, and I said, don't worry about it. We followed the rules exactly. You sought broker advice. We gave our realtor good advice. They give us clear and concise instructions. We are 100% covered. If they have a problem with it, have their broker call me directly, and I will explain the whole process to them, and this won't go anywhere.
Perfect.
And it's just sour grapes at the time.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting pushed for time here now, so let's continue on. What if one of the offers is yours?
Okay. Traditionally, old school, manager had to step in, represent the seller. No longer automatic. That's at the seller's choice. We follow their instruction. A lot of them don't want to lose the advice from the realtor they know, like, and trust, and have some manager from CIR they'd never met inserted.
Totally.
That trust relationship. So we can certainly do that. It's well within the rules as long as we have the seller instruction. And we should, if we've been given permission, communicate that to everyone that I will be presenting my own offer and my seller's instruction.
And then if you're representing your seller still, it's important to put the buyer of the second offer in customer status.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
You don't want to enter into now being in a seller representation agreement.
Yes.
Agreement to represent seller and buyer, because the biggest thing about transactional brokerage, I can no longer give advice to anyone.
Exactly.
Not an ideal place for your seller to be when they're trying to figure out 3 or 4 offers.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure that your buyer is coming in. But you'll get a lot of old school realtors who are just like, no, you can't work with your own offer.
Yeah. And some of them are comfortable.
That's right. And you can bring in a manager, and we'll help you guys do that. Except with the seller's instructions, you can represent your own offer. That's in the rules now.
Now they can say, the other parties can say, we would like the offer sent to a manager and be held so you don't get to see them until they're presented, even if they're doing the presentation.
Okay.
So there are things, and that would make those other potential buyers more comfortable that their agreement or offer is somewhat confidential till presentation. Not that at the end of the day, that really affects anything.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if you are doing a commission reduction, do you have to disclose that?
No, all commissions are negotiable. A buyer's realtor should be expecting that in a competitive offer situation, the listing realtor, if they're bringing their own offer, is certainly likely to introduce some form of commission reduction, and you should factor that into your advice to your buyer client.
Yeah.
And you can certainly do it, and there is no requirement to disclose anymore.
Back in the
day.
day.
There used to be, you had to disclose if you were reducing the buying side or your commission in any way, shape, or form to the potential buyer and their realtor. That's no longer the case.
Perfect. Now, let's flip gears. We're now representing the buyers who are in multiple offers. And can I write a clause that says, if there's multiple offers, my contract will go up by $1,000, or it'll be $1,000 higher than the next highest offer? What can I do? Write those flexible priced clause in?
You can. There's no restriction. You can write whatever you want into an offer.
Yeah.
It's up to the seller to decide, as long as it's legal.
Of course.
So it's acceptable, but now we get into, okay, do I now say, okay, to my buyer who is not going to go there, well, let's write our offer for 50 grand over list, and then that guy's going to have to spend 51.
Yeah.
It opens up a lot of issues. To me, it's better. And with a seller, we have no idea about the qualifications for the person. What if it does go 50 grand over list, which this realtor was not expecting, and now they can't get financed, even if it was unconditional. Now We're heading into a problem of a firm transaction with a buyer being unable to secure financing for the transaction. Yeah. To me, I like to see hard numbers, and I would push them to the hard number.
I got a multiple offer one time. One of the offers came in blank and said, you write in the price that you want. And I'm like, well, they're going to need an appraisal and they're going to need financing. So, on my $400,000 property, I can't write in $1 million because obviously that's not going to work. So you got to be realistic and get that going.
And really, all they were asking is, what's your best scenario? What do you want? We're going to tell you if we're going to accept it. Because as soon as you write it in, they have to agree to it anyways.
Perfect.
So you write it in 50 grand higher and they go, what are you on drugs?
Yeah, yeah. So now I've had this happen to me with investors before. A great property comes up, and now I have 2 buyers who have offers on the same property. So multiples, except I'm representing both from the buyer's perspective. What do we do?
Okay, well, the problem here is you're likely already in agency representation with both buyers and an agency representation over here. It's a huge conflict of interest to represent multiple offers from you. Immediately talk to a manager. We're likely going to bring in a manager, recommend that you either just stay totally with the seller and we turn the buyers over to other people, or you retain one buyer. We'll explore all the options. But at no time would I ever recommend that you represent all 3 parties and submit all the offers.
Yeah, even if you represent just 2 buyers, best to contact your manager for advice on that.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend that we bring in another realtor at that point for one of the buyers to reach independent advice. So because you're putting yourself right in the target here of all 3 people.
Yeah.
And there's only one you're going to make truly happy, which is probably the seller.
Yeah.
And they're okay with it. But the buyer who didn't get it is going to wonder, did you play favorites? All of these things. It's just scary for you as a realtor and for your reputation.
Perfect. David, those are a fantastic piece of advice. We really, really appreciate your time coming on here and doing that. And a bottom line, I think one of the best pieces of advice here, if you are unsure, and our Facebook page is a great place to collaborate on, but not always the best place to go and get advice. There's a lot of myths out there, a lot of misunderstandings about how to approach some of these topics. So if you want an answer, please, please, please contact our management team, and we'll get you the advice based off the rules. If there's anything we don't know, we'll pause. Go and ask for a clarification from the correct people and get back to you. So just be cautious with issues that have high value to your clients or are particularly sensitive, because you want to make sure that you track this right.
I look at it as we can have great discussions there, but
Yeah.
it's not the place to go for advice.
Exactly.
Because I can guarantee you, if you throw it out there to 600 realtors on Facebook, there will be at least 15 different opinions. So which one's right?
You got it.
Let us take the liability,
Perfect.
not you.
Perfect.
Okay.
David, thank you again for joining us on the meeting today.
Oh, I love it.
Next time we see you guys will be in 2 weeks, because we have the long weekend, long weekend break. Happy Labor Day. It's Labor Day.
Labor Day, yes.
And it'll be a different Labor Day without football, which is
I don't go there.
sensitive
No Labor
topic.
Day Classic. I can't
know.
go up the following Saturday and watch Calgary beat Edmonton 2 weeks in a row. It's just makes me very sad.
I get it. Well, David, we'll have a moment of silence for you after this. All right. All the best, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.
Have a great week, guys.